Good morning and welcome to the Iconic Production channel. I am JM, and with me as always is my co-host Evan. This is Exploring Glorantha. Welcome. We are continuing our temporal look at Glorantha and why all of these different ages, history, and legends actually have any impact on your game. Because again, looking at trying to get into Glorantha, that's a 700-page two-tome coffee table book. And as one of my new players in my RuneQuest game said, she feels like every time she asks, "Hey, what's that rock in the background of this picture?" Evan gives her 5 pages of, "Well, this is the most important rock in the world for this reason." So we're trying to take these massive time scapes, these thousands of years of history, and go, "Hey, here's what's important at a very high level, and here's how we use them in the game." Now, our problem is Evan and I love the history of Glorantha, so we're going to have to break the first stage up into two parts. So we're going to cover today everything before the Second Council, which includes Second Council on is the birth of Nicelor, the rise of Arcat, and the deception of Gabaji, and kind of what falls out after that. So today we're going to start talking about the Silver Age. This is where Superman could move planets and... Wait, wrong Silver Age. Evan, why don't you tell us about the Silver Age of Glorantha?
Sure thing. Well, so for the Silver Age, we're rewinding a little bit. We finished up the God time, and with the dawn and everything, but there is a period of time between I fought, we won, and the dawn, which plays out in different parts of the world a little differently, but in our area of focus, Dragon Pass and the areas around it, it's known as the Silver Age, and it is the period of time where things start to get organized. There are great heroes. It is a period of, the time is not flowing yet, but it's about, the feeling is about 500 years of things could happen within this period. Getting ready for the completion of the Lightbringer's quest, and it's very important for setting things out in after the dawning and in the central area of Dragon Pass, and also lays all the groundwork for sort of the beginning of the recovery after the dawn.
And the real there's some major movers and players here, but what we have here is we have this what is called the First Council. So the Unity Council, the Council of Friends. This spirit of things are going to be better, and the only old one, Ezcan Keko, which is one of my favorite names to just say. It's weird to say that a name has a good mouthfeel, but that's Ezken Keko. Just I like the way that rolls off the tongue. So it sort of begins with the first sunrise, and there are originally 6 members of this Unity Council. And so the thing about the First Age is its beginning and its end are kind of bookmarked by two great councils. The Unity Council is the one we're going to talk a little bit about today. And then we're going to spend just a ton of time talking about the Second Council. They're Hubris. And so, Evan, just as a spoiler, do you fall on the side of hubristic Second Council, or, altruistic Second Council? And that Nicelor was originally... Or do we want to just set that whole debate?
I
You
mean,
are
if
a
you ask,
filthy lunar,
yeah,
so...
if you ask my opinion, my sagacious opinion.
Yes.
It is hubris. It is the things are going so well, and so the best thing that we can do is dial the clock back, literally back to utopia, and we can do it.
Yeah.
And
Can we do it?
so
Can we build it? Yes, we can.
yeah. So
Um,
um, but so but now we're talking about a time that before
yes.
everybody gets too big for their pants,
Right.
so to speak, where there's this genuine growing hope and a period of exceptional harmony and unity.
Yeah. And it's essentially the achievements of the first council that pave the way for the downfall of the second council. But the
Yeah.
six, among these six, were the only old one, as Ken Keko. And I'll introduce all of them, and I'll let Evan kind of give a highlight of who each of these people are. There's a dragon newt known as the Heart of Weakness, which I love dragon newts. Expect a lot of dragon newts in our RuneQuest game, Evan.
Oh,
I just, I think they're one of the coolest
yeah.
of the elder races and one of the most uniquely Gloranthan. The elf, Rolfa Oakhart, the dwarf, Maltalar, the Blazing Forge, the last of the Gold Wheel dancers, Speaking Wheel, and Aram Ya Udrum, human. And so this is a time of hope. These six, as well as the others that kind of form around them, form the core of, hey, what is this time thing? Let's figure it out. And we just came out of, as Evan has pointed out, that Glorantha is sort of a post-apocalyptic setting. We've just come out of this apocalypse. Can we rebuild paradise? And that's kind of the goal of the Unity Council, to set to order this world that has just come out of the battle of I fought, we won, and establish some sort of peace and age of abundance. So, Evan, for people who may not have the library time, the library use role that you have in Glorantha, who are these six and why are they important?
Yeah. So these individuals uh, and the peoples that they are representing, came together in the pre-time period. In many places, it's known as the Gray Age, but in central Gendertella, it's known as the Silver Age. And the only old one is pivotal to that. Now, we last met him in detail on the Lightbringer's Quest,
Mm-hmm.
because his realm extended all the way down into the underworld, and it was Yermal behaving very badly. In fact, seducing and murdering Ezkan Keiko's son, because he thought it would be a laugh. That
Tricksters,
almost,
man.
yeah, almost ended the quest there. They broke the rules of hospitality, and when they were had a moment to rest on their quest with Ezkan Keiko, and bad things happen. But check out that episode. So, notwithstanding that encounter, the only old one was extremely influential and powerful. He is the son of Night, that is the goddess of night, a descendant of the goddess of night. He is the son of Argan Argar, who is the son of Night, and the land goddess Esrola. So he is deeply tied to this physical area, which is dominated by his mother, and he has this ability to communicate and um, uh, to make links
Mhm.
that are the stock and trade of his divine father. He is both a troll and not a troll. Um, it is said that he appeared sort of to be whomever the speaker, the person that he was talking to, felt most comfortable with.
Mhm.
Essentially, he has a sort of chameleon like ability um, to set people at ease. Um, and of course, the land is still dark in the Silver Age. A few stars and planets begin to come back. Um, but it is more of a comforting darkness in that, Ezcan Keiko's power is at its height there, and as he forms this unity, they are able to defeat the powers of chaos in the local area at a place called the
Mhm.
Unity Battle, which happens on the Shadow Plateau, and push the remnants of the Devil's Army back, um, and begin to rebuild.
Mhm.
And the Unity Battle had the elder races united, humanity united, and and Ezca Keiko is at the heart of that, making deals, basically um, extending protection and making um, links with other people in return for a tribute to him called the Shadow Tribute, which is something that continues on into um, until uh, the God King Belentar eventually comes to defeat him far in the
Yeah.
future.
Far in the future. We'll cover that when we get to a later age.
That's right. Well, we've spoken about him a little bit when
Hmm.
we talked about Esrolia, but so the only old one is pivotal to this. It is his sort of patronage and oversight of the area that allows it to begin to stabilize and come back, and for this age of heroes to develop. Um, Going through the other five quickly, the Heart of Weakness sounds like, oh well, what that sounds like a uh, maybe a not very important dragon newt, but
No, that's not the way dragon newts work.
that's not the way dragon newts work. Heart of Weakness was what is known as the Inhuman King. He was the leader of the dragon newts in Dragon Pass, and this is one step below the stage of enlightenment when a dragon newt can finally reincarnate into what they believe they are intended to be, which is a true dragon,
Hmm.
a cosmic being. So Heart of Weakness uh, was part of this unity. The elf Fwalfa Oakheart is one of the followers of he's a green elf. So the brown elves, those are the deciduous linked elves, and the nymphs and the land goddesses. They all went to sleep. They all were essentially dead during the late uh, era of darkness and the until they could be brought back after the dawn. But the green elves stayed awake and fought. High King Elf, far away to the west, had a stronghold there, but the forests still blanketed much of Genertella, and so this representative of the Aldriami uh, uh, joined. Even though there was a lot of uh, bitter feelings between trolls and elves and dwarfs. Um, this unity promoted by Ezken Keiko brought them together. Marteler, the Blazing Forge, a Mastali from Jimborg, which is a big dwarf settlement in the area of the Holy Country now, was an important leader, one of the dwarfs in charge of trying to repair the world machine, and this was seen as part of the plan. This unity
Hmm.
was on the schedule to recreate and rebuild the world. So the Gold World Wheel Dancers, these are very mysterious beings. They seem to have disappeared shortly after the dawn. It says that Speaking Wheel was the last. That does not mean at the time of the dawn that Speaking Wheel, he or her, a little unclear whether or not there's any sort of biological sex for Gold Wheel Dancers, although there are stories of some of them getting married to male Orlanthi. These mysterious individuals, there were maybe 10 still alive at the dawn, but Speaking Wheel becomes the last
Hmm.
eventually, or seemingly the last known to history. But they were very important to rebuilding the world, and they are this a mysterious lost race that thrived during the golden age, and then dwindled and diminished as things became destroyed again, and they do not long uh, uh, seem to last beyond even the restoration of the dawn. But a pivotal contribution to building this unity. And they are remembered because they are Gold Wheel Dancers. The uh, the gold currency, which still exists in Genertella, are called wheels.
Hmm.
Why?
Because of
Because
this.
after the Gold Wheel Dancers, who could appear as a wheel of gold, as a silver being wreathed in a gold halo. They had multiple forms, and probably there's not enough information really captured about them, other than them being glimpsed by hero questers who have gone back to on quests, but probably many of the standard pathways don't necessarily intersect with them because their stories have not survived. So experimental hero questers might encounter them. Um, and then Aram Yaudram is a Silver Age hero. He's humanity's representative at this time on the Unity Council. He had many great deeds, including slaying this huge monstrous boar called.
Gouger the Godchild. Yeah.
That's right. And he built from it the ivory plinth.
Hmm.
And his followers became named after him, the Aramites. Yet somehow now, even though he was a great hero, a champion of humanity, his descendants become the Tusk Riders.
Hmm.
So there's some darkness at the heart of uh, his legacy. But at
Right.
this time, he is a tremendous champion against chaos, and a doer of great deeds, and a representative for that can speak on behalf of humanity. And there are other, of course, great heroes. Heort,
Oh
the,
yeah, if
the
you don't
leader
mind,
of the Heortlings. Yeah.
yeah, I'll take some of these over. Yeah, so we have things that echo, as Evan has been pointing out, all the way from the first age into our Dragon Pass games in the third age. When you are looking at your if you do the clan creation, which we've talked about, if you can find that document somewhere in the dark recesses of the internet, or have your own copy saved archivally on your on your machine. If you go through and read even just the RuneQuest uh, role-playing in Glorantha or the Glorantha source book, you're going to see a lot of these names, or at least their legacies, still alive in your games today. So we'll start with Heort. Like, Sartrites are descended from the Hjortlings, right? King Hjort is the guy who founded this line. He learned the secrets of the Starheart. He was one of the great leaders in the Battle of I Fought, We Won. And after the dawn, he becomes central to reestablishing the sacrificial system to Orlanth and the Storm Tribe. So all of the rituals your clan and your Tula are involved in trace their lines back to what King Hjort set down in the First Age. So the whole reason that you guys are still worshiping Orlanth is because of this guy. We have Myrngala, the Great Queen, who founded Nochet, which is Nochet is like the big city in Dragon Pass, right? Everything else is sort of a pale imitation or a pale shadow of Notchet. And again, she sort of sets the mythical pattern for all rulers of Nochet, as well as the Isrolian priestess hood, right? She's a mighty priestess. She takes many heroes as husbands who act as the defenders of the Isrolian throne. I also like Panaxles, the architect. He's the one who built large sections of the city, the palace, the temple, the walls. He also builds Whitewall, which, if you have gone through character creation, you know the Battle of Whitewall is a key battle in your parents' and grandparents' history leading up to who you are. It is one of the pivotal turning points of the war against the Lunars, or as uh, Evan refers to it, the War of Sartrite Aggression. Um, so Whitewall is established at this time. He also ends up getting into a bit of a spat with King Hjort and eventually dies at the end of Hjort's blade. Now, if I remember correctly, Evan, if my pre-caffeinated neurons are firing correctly, Hjort's Whitewall is King Hjort's kind of stronghold, correct? Like, isn't that where the
Um,
Hjortlings are sort of
I, I mean, it's a temple fortress.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's more Orlanth's place than any particular, but it would be a place where you would have crowned important individuals such as
Or
Heort and
Hjort, yeah,
and so
temples
yeah.
for
So
Orlanth Rex and places like that.
well, actually,
Well, actually, go for it, Evan.
so,
It's not an
Orlanth,
exploring Glorantha if I don't
yeah.
get actually at least once. Place that on your exploring Glorantha bingo cards.
Yeah. Orlanth Rex is actually a later development
Oh, that's right.
in that Alarkring
Mm-hmm.
Dragonbreaker, who is a Second Age hero, establishes it after in reaction to the Empire Wormsprint. So we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah. So we have all of these heroes, and there's a lot. If you remember the iconic patronage, know that we're going to have this outline posted early next week for you to enjoy the goodness of Evan's outlines. Like Amphibios brings the Newtlings, which I love the Newtlings, and so big hero in my mind. But essentially, the council is helping people and the people in Dragon Pass recover from the barbarism and the things that people needed to do to survive the Great Darkness. The Elder Wilds experience, great regrowth and repopulation. Um, Dwarf colonies are brought back together. Lost clans of humanity are starting to form. New communications between all of the different peoples, and many of them still, like, at this point, Eskin Keko is sort of the nominal leader of this. And outside of Dragon Pass, things are not great. Right? The Unity Council's reach is not, it's widespread, but it doesn't encompass the whole of Ginnertella. It doesn't encompass Pamatella at all. Someday we'll do an entire series of episodes on what happens in the West and the East. Hopefully, we'll get some really good source books in the near future. And again, the near future is very much soon. Trademark Chaosium. Hmm. Um, I say that tongue in cheek because I'm now really excited about the Gods of Glorantha series that will be coming out over the next year to year and a half. But we have people there making sacrifices, making tougher decisions because they don't have the guidance and the power of the Unity Council behind them. Um, for me, one of the big ones that I constantly refer to is Waha. And we've talked a lot about Waha before. Waha, Prax is devastated by the Gods War. And this is the time where basically Waha gathers everybody and they make the hard choices of who will be the eaters, who will be the eaten. We've talked about this, right? The Morricanth
Yeah.
are the only non-humans who actually are eaters, and right, the herd animals except and then the herd people are the eaten. We have things like Dakafel making who becomes the the cult of Dakafel is really the shamanistic cult, right? Shamans in Glorantha act as psychopomps to a degree, but also the guardians of the liminal spaces between the living and the dead. They deal with the spirits and ancestors of the clan in order to make sure the ancestors are happy, and that spirits that rise up get placated and put back to rest. So this is where Dakafel spends a lot of the legends of Dakafel, the myths of Dakafel are from this time, making sure that there is now very clear boundaries between what is alive and what is dead. Evan, what are some of the other
Yeah. Well,
great things here that we can, or
yeah.
maybe not great, but like
Yeah. Um,
monumental things that are happening outside of Dragon Pass?
mhm, yeah. I just want to say a word or two more about
Please
the
do.
Waha and Prax. I mean, and Prax is sort of pivotal because it's linked to the center, but I don't think it's necessarily unique in terms of the kinds of hard choices that get made in this period, this gray age. For them, it's a gray age at best. The vast majority of chaos has been defeated in many ways, but it's still a constant danger. They witness Stormbull fight the devil and then be crushed under the block. But then, the cleanup that's left for Waha
Mm-hmm.
and the remnant peoples to try and cleanse what is left, which is this blasted wasteland. And so the Lightbringers are on their quest and the dawn is coming, but there's still
Mm-hmm.
generations essentially that has to pass for people to survive to be able to even see the dawn. And so on, the beings that live together as equals then have to make this decision of, well, I'm going to care for you, but I'm going to but you're going to take care of me because I'm going to, our people are going to eat your people, but together we will all survive. So this is how the things are playing out now. Far beyond that, there are a couple of other areas that have their own sort of unity. It's not quite like what's happening
Mm-hmm.
in the Silver Age, but in the West, the followers of Malkion, the Brithini, and other
Mm-hmm.
Western peoples are make it to the other side in their strict discipline, and interpretation of their understanding, their logic, and study of the universe allows them to cling to their civilization and begin to rebuild. And in the East, in what is known as the Kingdom of Splendor, the Eastern Empire continues to have some vitality to it, and some level of population that would be considered something like a civilization. And then far away in the southern continent, Pomalt, who is the still living continental god, is able to care for his people directly on the plains. And so there are these points of light, shall we say, even in this gray age of darkness, with only slowly returning stars and planets, and yet no sun in the sky. And so the world was very close to nothingness. And it is just teetering on the brink still here, while the Lightbringer's quest concludes.
Now, and just keep a pin in what's going on in the West right now that Evan pointed out, because that ends up being very important to what we are discussing next time. So again, we're trying to keep this. This is the Glorantha 101 show. For the Glorantha 2 and 300 level show, go check out the God Learners podcast.
Yep.
So now, the Unity Council is not unaware of what is going on in the rest of the world, right? They have made some discoveries as they start to, once they establish their foothold, their stronghold in Dragon Pass, they start to spread out a bit. What they discover is that most people outside are struggling. They don't feel warmth. They don't recognize food. They don't see how to better themselves anyway. They are still living as if the great darkness has a hold on them and that dawn has not come. And so the only old one says, all right, we need to send people out to not only teach, but awaken the minds and the spirits of those outside of our little domain to the reality of the dawn. Spread the story of the Lightbringer's quest. Spread the story of the defeat of chaos. Spread the story of I fought and we won. And that has, Evan, would you agree, varying degrees of success?
Yeah. I mean, initially, it's, well, in the Shadowlands, ruled by or led by, shall we say, Ezcan Keiko and the Unity Council, the dawn is a joyful, realization of everything that they've been working towards, and the sun rises in the sky, and it's like they made it. But then, yes, as they look out, it's like people in some ways are so traumatized they can't even recognize the change. And the story is told that the first person that they sort of stepped out of this area and encountered was so shocked and surprised that they died. And then they brought others to Ezcan Keiko who was able to sort of transmit the revelation of the dawn to them. And then they were able to sort of systematize it, to train people to go out and be missionaries, these missionaries of hope. Initially it goes very well. And generally, as it sort of builds steam, as they have this idea of, well, to wake up dwarfs, we'll send other dwarfs, and to wake up elves, we'll send other elves. and the awakening in the forest is very successful. And although there are very small numbers of people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're again talking sort of a post-apocalypse. There's about 15,000 human beings in Dragon Pass and the Holy Country area that survive until the dawn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost an inconceivably small number of
Especially
people.
considering where we're at in the third age, right?
Right.
Nochet has,
100,000.
yeah,
Yeah. And there's more trolls and about the same amount of elves that survive and about the same amount of dwarfs and maybe 5,000 dragon newts. So teeny tiny populations in the area that's doing pretty well, and then they go out and they find these scattered bands of individuals that are blasted back to the Stone Age,
yeah.
essentially, and thoroughly traumatized.
Which, remember, Glorantha is Bronze Age, so that's still like a huge way to fall compared to where the
Right.
Unity Council is at.
I mean, in some ways, it's like back before the Stone Age, and that they barely are making tools or
Mm-hmm.
or understanding anything. Um, uh, and there's a complicated sort of ritual of the awakening, of bringing people sort of back to life, and almost it's like a resurrection of their connection to the universe. Not that they are dead, but that they are sort of dead to the world.
Right, and
Um,
that's,
yeah.
if I may interrupt real quick,
Oh, sure.
that's one of the terrifying effects of chaos that I think we need to just once again re-stress. Chaos is not just evil, although it is. Chaos is not disorder. Chaos is the thing that severs you from what makes up your identity. It severs your sense of personhood. It severs your connection to the community. It severs your connection to the gods. It literally severs your connection to humanity and sentience in this case, right? Chaos is so corruptive and destructive because it takes what's there and systematically destroys everything that makes it what it is, and then leaves the rest to essentially struggle and lash out and die. And so that's one of these effects of the Great Darkness, is that there are still these pockets of humans who, by every standard of the Unity Council, aren't even human anymore. They look human, they have the potential to be human. And this ritual, this systematized awakening, is what sort of reconnects them to other people, back to the world, back to the first age, and where they can then start and build out from.
and and a big part of the damage, of course, is their loss of link to
Mm-hmm.
their past, their
Mm-hmm.
ancestors, the ability to connect with the unseen world, and of course the loss of the gods,
Yeah.
because all their gods, as far as they knew, died.
Right.
Their connection to the divine was obliterated, and so part of the missionaries' job is to reconnect them. And there are some people who saved more, but their understanding perhaps is partial, and it takes a long time for some of the missionaries to sort of get through. And one thing, they travel. They begin to be able to travel, very great distances. They missionaries, eventually reach, all the way out to the edge of what is Ralios, which is beyond the mountains, and it's
Mm-hmm.
this big area. And there's an area within Ralios called Safelstar, and there's a great city of the a holy city of the gods that was built around the spot where Xeroxaron killed Flamand,
Hmm.
as a sort of trying to hold on to that, and they did retain certain understandings, but it was it took decades of sort of engagement with them to finally connect what they knew to the broader Lightbringer myth, where suddenly they realized that one of their great gods was actually Orlanth, and these were the sorts of things that the missionaries were doing. Were connecting fragments of knowledge that people had, if they remembered anything at all, and and letting them know that in fact there was a connection, there was a unity to
Yeah.
their understanding that this great spirit or deity or ancestor, however they conceived of it, was actually had a more profound and more complex role in the God time, and it connected them
Hmm.
to the missionary.
Now,
So
as they go
sometimes that
out,
was,
oh,
yeah.
go, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Go. No,
Oh,
no.
but anyway, so sometimes it was a lot of hard work, but then they did start to encounter some people who just were having none of it,
Hmm.
shall we say?
And as they grew more, as they awakened more people, some of these people wanted to join the council, and eventually it became so large that there was this unofficial official renaming to the World Council of Friends,
Yeah.
and this is where things start to break down. There is a push to move to Dorster, known as the Land of Beauty, I believe, at this point. They
Yeah.
find some ruins of a god time civilization, the Feldici people. And there's this push. Hey, there are these ruins from the god time. We can study this civilization from before the apocalypse. The city brings up a large number of the council moves there. The discovery of these ruins and their study are leading to a time of wild expansion in magic and understanding and growth. And they decide, some of them, there's this push to essentially move the council here, expand it, and create something new. Maybe instead of just saving people, we can recreate the splendor of the god time.
Yeah. And I think an important thing to understand about one of the catalysts for this, is the encounter between the missionaries, who are essentially
Mm-hmm.
Lightbringer based, coming out of Dragon Pass, going into the north and encountering in Peloria. So the area which now houses, which is the home base of the lunar civilization, which is built on the solar civilization. At this time, there was a solar affiliated civilization. So cosmically, the conflict between Orlanth and Yelm, uh, and there are chariot driving nomads. They are masters of horses, and they hold the rest of the population pretty much in thrall um, to serve them, and they don't want anything to do with this message of the Lightbringers. And they begin to be, there begin to be conflicts, that the more the missionaries try to approach in a peaceful way, the more aggressive the
Mm-hmm.
horse nomads are. And uh, it's not immediate, but as the tensions grow, there is a shift from, it's like, well, we can no longer persuade, we can no longer, we've reached the people, and the peaceful outreach has started to, already people are now coming to us and asking us for this, but some people can't be reached, and in fact they pose a threat, and so we need to shift from peaceful outreach to um, to a more warlike stance.
Yeah, and I think that answers Restar's question that how much do the missionaries shape the narrative as they encounter these other people and do factions and nominations? Yeah. So essentially the council starts to break down and break apart. There are those who embrace this warlike uh stance. There are people who embrace the listen, we shouldn't just be awakening people. We should be either ruling or going one step farther and using all of the knowledge that we possess. Wouldn't it be better if we could just take everyone back to the golden age before time? And Evan, you may be able to answer this. Again, we kind of call it the hubris of the Second Council. Could it also be a lack of understanding of the Great Compromise at this point? Like not truly understanding that hey, time has to exist, and that going back isn't going to be a simple thing or even one that is possible without great, just by attempting it, right? Every time we hit these, right? This is one of the things about bringing the first stage. Why would we even talk about this if the goal is to get this to the table? We got about 15 minutes left, and that's
Mm-hmm.
usually when we make our shift here.
Yeah.
But this cycle of chaos entering the world, great heroes arising, great times of upheaval and distress, things looking bleak, and then possibly, through the course of heroes, your heroes in the third age, the world survives and moves on, changed in some fundamental way, is one of these great mythic cycles from the god time that is continually playing out and reiterating and recapitulating itself in time.
Yeah. And yeah, it is this hubris that it's like I mean, we made it. We have been informing everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We know better than everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, they are coming to us, and now, we've rediscovered secrets that are from before time, and when things really worked well, the Green Age,
Yeah.
the age of the gods, and if we could just get back to that on Earth, everything will be perfect, and that then the individuals, the people who are taking up arms, who are not understanding the rightness of what we're doing, this there will be a way to open their hearts and minds to the truth, the real truth.
We'll just bludgeon
And
them
yeah,
into
yeah,
understanding.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We will control the greatest power on earth, and then they will understand.
Yeah.
And that's the shift from awakening and giving people back their opportunities, their freedom, their connection to the world, to we know what's best. And now it's clear the steps we need to take in order to make sure that everything is in its place, and everybody understands what their role is.
And so why is this important? Why do we bring it to the table? Well, this shift is also one of the things that happens in the Lunar Empire. It's kind of we're dealing with this militaristic missionary expansion, and you will be better for our ruling over you. We will lunarize you with sword and mace, and then your descendants will have it better off than you do. Um, but right, we just established, hey, no chat all the way. Is it no chat or not chat?
I believe Notchet is the
Not
is
chat. Thank you.
because it's a derivation of not yet.
Oh, thank you. So, Notchet, um, from the first age, all of Hjortling's myths and legends, which are hero quests your players can engage with, they come from the first age. When we get to the second part next week and talk about Arcat and Gabaji, massive influence on things that are going on in the third age. But also, there are a ton of items and deeds and legacies from the first age that hopefully you can pick up on from what we've just discussed here. And these are things that your players can go in Hero Quest to engage with and come back with, you know, something from King Hjort, part of his regalia, to prove that your character should be the chieftain or the chieftainess. Perhaps if they're trying to build something new in their Tula, well, why would you not want to go back on a hero quest to engage with my brain chistives, Panaxles, maybe get his
Yeah.
level or his wisdom and bring it back to your tribe to build new walls or a new temple. That's something that's definitely going to come up in our RuneQuest game with the building of the Temple of Chalana Arroy.
I mean, given that, the greatest heroes
Mm-hmm.
have been able to bring heroes from the Silver Age to work with them. I mean, if you really need it, maybe you need to bring Panaxles back
Yeah.
to come with you to into the world. And we know that that is something that the God King did, and we're going to talk about it next month. But it's something that Arcat did.
Something that Arquette did.
So aren't your heroes as great as Arcat? Well, they might be.
Yeah. Um, let's answer a question in the chat. So, any recommendations for an edition source book for study and exploration? So, and I'll put these in the show notes. Um, the Glorantha source book, which you can get from chaosium.com
Yep.
or Drive Through RPG, is a great introductory book that covers a lot of this at a very high gloss. Great source book for digging more into the current realization of and synthesis of 40 plus years of Glorantha. The Well of Daliath is a website that is very useful, and we get a lot of our resources and information from, but it does require you to know what you're looking for. So I think that's kind of your next tier up as you read something in the Glorantha source book or in the RuneQuest Adventures in Glorantha. Has a ton of history in there as well. Then you can say, hey, what does this mean? They don't explain it. Let me go to the Well of Daliath. Hey, look, that's information that I need. And then if you want more information than you could possibly shake a stick at, I've read through it 4 or 5 times and I know I've just glossed over or forgotten more than I've retained. There is the Guide to Glorantha. It's a 2-volume set. It is beautiful, lavishly illustrated, well laid out. Close to 800 pages, I think, of Glorantha information split between 2 books. Evan, any other resources that we can point people toward?
Well, of course, the starter set has
Oh yeah,
a good summary, and it's an entry level box, but it has tons of resources, and takes both the beautiful both the background book leads you directly into application, and you see how you can play it at the table through the adventure books and the character sheets. And it's beautifully illustrated. So I think that is a great resource. And if you're either as a player or as a game master, it's a great way to get in. And
mm-hmm.
so I would highly consider that as a way to go in. There's a lot of other sort of esoteric sources, and we don't if you want to go that way, they're definitely out there. The Stafford Library
Stafford
has a lot of
Library.
stuff, but a lot of that has been a lot of the things that were in the Stafford Library were incorporated into the source book and into the guide, and those are the official sources. but there's a lot out there. The Well of Daliath has
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of articles, and so you may find things that will spark your imagination there. But ultimately, remember that um, what happens at your table is your Glorantha.
Yeah.
So um, we say, your Glorantha will vary, and people feel torn about that sometimes. They're like, well, but I want to do the real Glorantha. And the thing is that what happens at your table is the real
Is the real
Glorantha.
Glorantha.
You have to, feel that you have been given permission, because you have. And there was just a Jason Doral, who's one of the
Mm-hmm.
creative designers on RuneQuest and Glorantha. Just did a YouTube video about when to depart from canon. And again, this is not a holy writ. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game to have fun and to create amazing stories and memories with your friends, your family, and but if you feel like you need to be taken through and said, hey, well, you can make changes, even to things that are in the official books. This is something that they talk about because they want you
Yeah.
to feel connected. And it's a slightly different version of Glorantha at each person's table, and that's
That's
okay.
okay.
We talk about these things, and we give you outlines, and we say these things happen, but did they happen that way in your game? Maybe you say, well, I don't like that. I don't. I saw a discussion about one of the greatest Johnstown Compendium books, Six Seasons in Sartar, and
Mm-hmm.
someone said, well, I have I have a little bit of an issue with the way something runs in that, and I'm not sure if it's right for my table. And I think people were very good about saying, well, that's fine, you can
That's fine.
change
Yeah.
it. It's you have to understand the sensibilities and the just the interests of your players, and the way that you want to interact with the game. So
Yeah.
to bring it back, um, what happened in the Silver Age, there are the stories that are told. And one of the things that actually is a quote, I think, from the Well of Daliath. I'm not sure if it's reproduced in one of the official guides, but everybody has stories about the Silver Age heroes. They're so important that they are encountered again and again in local cycles of histories and stories, as well as great big epics. And sometimes somebody is only mentioned in a big epic once, but um, but they're impossible to systematize still, because the Silver Age is still before time, and every story is true and happened. Even if a Lancor sage can't say, well, but this had to happen before that one, but that can't have happened, because it's God time, because we're talking about heroes
Yes.
before the dawn. It does happen. And so just like every community will have a different way of telling a particular tale, myth, folk folk story, that's your table too.
Yeah.
And so if you see something intriguing or something missing, like, well, hey, there isn't a Silver Age hero that does this, well,
Make one
make
up.
one.
Yeah.
Make one, and then there is, because that's important to you.
Yeah. And I think another thing to remember is there are immortal beings in Glorantha, and there are immortal beings that you will encounter at a regular pace in Glorantha. They're not necessarily off on some mountaintop somewhere, although they are. My game
Also,
has already encountered several immortal creatures, and we're only like three sessions in. And the thing to remember is they were there during the God time. This is that moment in the Council of Elrond where Frodo's like, "But wait, didn't the Battle of the Last Alliance happen thousands of years ago?" And Elrond's like, "Oh yeah, I was there, but my memory goes even farther back to, the breaking of Thangorodrim, and we thought evil was, destroyed forever." This is this thing. So there are beings alive that your characters can encounter that lived through this time, and you definitely can bring in these myths, these legends, these stories into your game. As a player, you can be tied to one of these. Maybe you're a descendant of Panaxles, and that's why, or your family says that you are, and that's why you're interested in building this new temple for the Tula. Or some other hero, you can draw a ancestral line back, and that is why this is important. I think your um, analogy of rail games is perfect for this because yes, as soon as I read the first sentence, I'm like, oh yeah, then you end with 18xx games, and that's essentially the guide to Glorantha. Um, but the other thing is, remember, we're dealing with a Bronze Age society. It's been 3 ages of the world, and I guarantee there are unexplored places in your clan's lands where you could put a hidden valley or something that has been sealed off. These are ideas that I have had, Evan. They're coming up in our Glorantha game, so no spoilers for you. But where something from the first age, maybe a gold wheel dancer, maybe one of these pockets of darkened humanity, still exist, and suddenly the first age breaks through in a very physical and real way into your game. So, Evan, any final thoughts before we wrap up? Tease next time and then
Yeah.
continue to talk about other iconic stuff.
I would just say that this period of the history, um, it's sort of the yin and the yang.
Mm-hmm.
The age. This is the the hopeful beginning
Mm-hmm.
before there's conflict, uh, and I think the cycle continues through Glorantha. So the more you look, the more you will see the struggle between hope and promise, and then complication and conflict, and learning to uh, manage those cycles at the table, both in small ways and in big ways, really makes these stories that we tell resonate. And so I just encourage you, and looking at this, let your mind float free, and find connections that will please you and your players at the table to do this.
Yeah. Excuse me. So next month we're going to be talking about the second half of the first age and really focusing in on the second council, the rise of Nice Lore, the fall of Gabaji, and Arcat, the hero, the troll, the
The
betrayer.
destroyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, if you are at all interested, at 7 o'clock Central, we will be interviewing Kevin Culp and Emily Dresner, who wrote Swords of the Serpentine. We're going to be interviewing them for the iconic podcast. And on Tuesday, we have our inaugural game of Crucible of Realms, our new Savage Worlds streaming show. If you like what you do, please consider subscribing here on Twitch, following us on YouTube, or supporting us over at patreon.com/iconic production, where you will get access to all of the notes that we put together for these shows. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. As always, a big thanks to my Lancor, my scholar, Evan. Thank you for continuing to co-host this with me. I am looking forward to many more episodes of Exploring Glorantha, as well as some sweet reviews of the Gods of Glorantha PDFs as soon as they release.
Yeah.
So, have a great one, everyone, and we will see you next month for some more Exploring Glorantha.
See you later, everyone.